So Jamie Lee Curtis, her friend saw my LinkedIn post and sent it to her. And then she posted it to her at the time 5.6 million Instagram followers. She has grown another million in the years since. And she's like, hey, this post moved me. This really describes who I am. It's who I've always been. Like, long live Michelle. And so then we started volleying hype back and forth to one another without like a written contract or knowing like what the end game was. Mean Girls, this is their brand of like modus operandi. This is kind of how they live their life, is they go around talking shit about other women and telling other women that people are talking shit about them. So I just wanted to call out this moment. So I literally opened my phone. I did not overthink it, Bob. Like, I just started writing, ladies, this is our vibe for 2023. Unabashed hype women. We are going to decondition from what we've been taught, that women are a competition. We're going to unlearn this shit. That's what you're thinking. What we discover upon further investigation is that this is the moment that Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress for her lead role in Everything Everywhere All at Once at the Golden Globes. And in that split-second moment, Jamie was celebrating Michelle's win as if it were her own. And
So you accomplished many different tasks by just putting that post out. A very powerful post. And whenever you can reach people that usually aren't validated, that's a major, major accomplishment.
Validation is, I think, one of the most primal needs of humans. We just want to be seen.
Of course.
And I think a lot of people are invalidated over the course of their lives. Women especially are invalidated with our experiences. That didn't happen to you. That's not what he meant. You're too sensitive. Why are you always trying to start a fight about stuff? Just let it go, right? You're told over and over again that your intuition and your experience didn't happen. And so you stop trusting yourself.
And welcome to the Apex Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Bob GDMD, and I'm here as always with my co-host,
Dennis V. How are you, Bob?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. We're in the midst of summer. The dog days, right?
The dog days. It's been hot here in New England. Speaking of New England, it's football season. They've started training camp, and I see some good things coming.
Yeah, we got our first win under our belt. I'm calling it right now. We're winning the Super Bowl.
Listen, I'd like that.
26 Patriots.
That'd be nice. Let's do it.
Right. It's been a little while. We've been hanging our head low, kind of just walking around, not showing our eyes.
The eyes are up this year.
The eyes are up. I think we got some good headway.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Dennis, we have a really incredible guest that we met maybe, I don't know, when was that? Was that like maybe 6 months ago we met in New York City?
Yes, in New York City. We went out to Kat Greenleaf's event. She was doing production for Soberness podcast. And it's unbelievable sometimes when you don't expect to run into somebody and meet someone. And this is an amazing person that we bumped into each other, and I'm so blessed to have met and seen all the amazing things that Erin Gallagher has done over the last several years. I could go on and on and on with all of her accomplishments, but what I'll say is she is really speaking to the masses as the creator of the Hype Women movement, and she has an unbelievable book that is ready to come out. Hype Women. Welcome to Apex Lifestyles Podcast, Erin Gallagher.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis and Bob. I'm so excited to be here. I wanted to piggyback on the NFL talk and make sure that everyone also knows that it's Rivals Week for the WNBA. And so, as we're wrapping up, we're coming into WNBA finals, so make sure you're tuning in. I'm thrilled to be here. That was such a kismet moment to me. When I was out at that event with my dear friend Stacey London. I'm rocking my by Stacey London peplum pleather top as a little Easter egg for us, as Stacey was a part of our first meeting. But just so grateful for this conversation we're about to have in the space that you all create for these.
Thank you. You know what? I'm going to piggyback off of you now. I love how you're posting about the WNBA all the time. You're a Chicago native, correct? Does that make you a Sky fan?
So it's funny. I'm not really from anywhere because my mom was in the Coast Guard for 25 years.
Okay.
And so we moved around every 2 to 4 years my entire life. And so the longest I've ever lived anywhere is Chicago. And that's of my own doing. I've been here for about 15 years. I love this guy. I love Angel Reese. Absolutely. Also, I'm a huge Fever fan. Caitlin Clark, just the way that she plays. We saw her play when she was at Iowa. We've taken the kids to a Fever game, and the boys got her signature on the jerseys they were wearing from Caitlin.
That's cool.
That's unbelievable.
It was like the peak moment of their lives. But, the Liberty, the Valkyries, like the Aces, that just, it's the stories, the unbelievable talent, the stick-to-itiveness and grit that the women in this league have always shown, but are finally getting some of the respect that they have been due in terms of access. Like that to me is kind of the theme when you see the lack of women in positions of power and influence across every single sector. It has nothing to do with ability, aspiration, or ambition. It has to do with access. And so now that we are finally giving the fans access to the product, they're showing us that this is what they want. So I will always hype the WNBA.
Well, they're selling out, and actually, they're one of the Celtics owners is trying to buy the Connecticut Sun, and they may be coming to Boston, which is right near us. So
that's right.
It's going to a bigger market, so it's getting really, really exciting.
Well, and we have the sports bra, Jenny Wynn's first women-owned sports bar playing exclusively women's sports that started in Portland. They are opening in Boston. They have a franchise that's opening up there, right? This continues to be a movement.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and you've helped to usher in that movement in a pretty significant way. We got to talk about, you're the founder and CEO of Ella. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Tell us all about it.
So I spent 15 years in corporate. I worked at agencies in marketing, communications, PR. That was really kind of my background and where I thought all of my career would go. But in 2019, left, and I started a company with two other women focused on working with the biggest brands and companies in the world to change their policies and practices inside of their organizations. We worked with McDonald's to do their entire global DEI strategy the summer of 2020. Worked with Carhartt to create the women's strategy to actually shift this, 5-generation, 150-year-old brand from exclusively focusing on men's workwear to women. Created the LinkedIn Career Breaks product. So did all of that, but then I turned 40 in 2022. And y'all, I just had this phrase that kept coming to me that refused to leave until I paid it the respect it was due. And the phrase was, I will no longer abandon myself in service to others.
That is awesome.
I mean, this had been honestly the mantra for my life. That's how I saw my worth and my value was tied to my service.
Can you say that again?
I will no longer abandon myself in service to others.
That is huge. That's like years of therapy in one sentence.
Oh, Bob, it's 20 years of therapy.
Yeah,
okay?
That's really cool.
It sounds really like light bulb and succinct. 20 years of therapy really fueled that awakening. And
I'm going to use that too, actually, if you don't mind. That's amazing.
And, it's just a coming home to yourself. And so that started the process of me leaving that first company I started, starting the company that you just mentioned, Ella, now 3 years old, setting new boundaries with family members and friends, and really assessing and doing an audit of where I was spending my time and my energy. And so a lot shifted for me when I turned 40 and has shifted since. And so Ella was my only chance to have a girl because I'm a mom of 2 boys. They are currently 9 and 6. There's no way in hell I was ever going to have another child. And so this was my one chance. And, Ella means she, her. It was deeply feminine. It was all the things that I had wanted to be in my career, but had been afraid to be because I was shown that leading with my masculine was how I would be successful. And so this was, again, a recalibration of kind of that masculine and feminine energy and not dismissing that side of myself anymore.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is a near and dear to my heart kind of topic, right? You were just talking about, can you dive into what you meant by embracing your masculine energy to be successful in the world and kind of dissect that a little bit? Because this is something Dennis and I talk about all the time.
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. and making that it's okay to access some of your feminine side and bring that back in. Can you get into that a little bit? I think this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And this is actually, it's a whole chapter in my book that's called The Goddess of Your Dualities, because I believe that you need both. So masculine and feminine are energies, right? It's not gendered at all. So that's the first mistake that we make in society is we say men are masculine and women are feminine. And if one person does the other, then something is wrong with them. What we instead need to think about the fact is that these are genderless energies that we have to have inside of us as a bit of an equilibrium that's constantly calibrating based on where we are in our life, what the situation is, how we're going through a transformation. And so I led with my masculine energy in almost all of my 15 years in corporate America. And what that meant was I was really focused on like performing, that everything was very structured, that I wanted to be the person that had all of the answers. I wanted to be a very strong leader. So it was all of these very kind of strong and inflexible parts of me that are necessary. Like the masculine container is what keeps you safe, actually, right? You need it. You need it to have, it's how you have like a routine, and it's how you learn how to hone your craft. But the feminine side, the part that was about my intuition and my instinct and leading with empathy and connecting with people and allowing myself to have those emotions, I was much more afraid to show that. I thought that would make me look weak and it would make me vulnerable to attack. And so what I finally kind of got to, honestly, this has been the past year, because I really still was not paying attention to how I needed to recalibrate this. What I got to was I need both. One is not better than the other. And I had to start to recognize the conditioning that existed inside of me that told me stories about what each of them are.
That is huge. That's a huge insight right there. It's like the zeitgeist out there of everybody, the super conscious of society telling you what role you're supposed to play.
That's right.
And it goes for both men and women, for sure, right? Yeah, it's a fascinating. Dennis and I are exploring that in a project right now, actually, which is kind of interesting that this came up. I didn't even think that this would come up as a topic, but I'm glad that it did. So that's awesome.
Well, and I'm also very cognizant as a parent, as a mother of two boys, that I have to ensure that I am not transferring that conditioning to them, that I'm calling out the conditioning when I see them picking up on it from friends, from media, from something they're watching on YouTube. I mean, little things that kids will start to say that become truth for them. They, over time, I mean, when you think about it, as adults, if we actually sat down and we talked about, like, what are the things that you believe? I guarantee that half of that stuff is not actually a belief. It's conditioning that was passed down to us, that we have carried, and we have never questioned whether or not it's true. So, right?
Yeah. Well, think about it. I've actually worked in as an educator in high school and in college for 28 years. And one of the things that I tell students is when they leave high school and they go to college for the first time, that's one of the first times they really start to think for themselves. And the conditioning, I mean, a lot of the conditioning we get from home and we get from those things around us, but that's when you really start to think about things. And then you have life experience. And as you have life experience and, you get a little older, you start to self-reflect and self-evaluate. Something that I picked up on that you spoke about, and we'll get into a little later as well, is setting boundaries in life. How difficult my understanding, did you have difficulty setting the boundaries initially, and you're more about setting the boundaries now?
It was an absolute shit show. Like just absolute shit show. The thing about boundaries, people that benefit from you not having boundaries are the first ones to be very upset when you set them.
Isn't that the truth?
Right? And that's not even my quote. It's a quote from someone else who I quote in my book. I just cannot recall her name at the moment. But that's the truth right there. And we are often taught, kind of like by inaction, that boundaries are there to like keep people out. It's like, no. a boundary is there because you want someone to remain in your life, and you need to communicate what's necessary in order for that to be the case. So what happened for me, I was the black sheep of my family because I was looking at traditions that I had grown up with that I had automatically started to do with my own children. And I started to ask, does this still work for me? Does this work for us? And when it didn't, and I said, we're not doing this anymore, people were very upset about that because it feels like rejection. And so, a lot of my growth in my 40s has been about realizing how much stuff is not mine. Like people's reaction to my choices about my own life, that is not mine. What they are going to do with that is what they're going to do with that. I have no control over it. And I sure as hell shouldn't see it as feedback that requires direction and action. And that is what I used to do. If I got feedback from someone, didn't matter if I knew them or not, I saw that as something I needed to really take to heart. Is that true about me? Did I do that wrong? When you have people that you know well that care about you and they are saying, hey, I want to tell you how that made me feel, that's very different. But when you have just random people out in the world who want to comment on every single thing you do, you will be so distracted from what you were setting out to accomplish because you were listening to the noise. And so for me, the boundaries were, this is my expectation of what a relationship looks like. This is what's necessary. It's the cost of admission to be in it with me, to have access to me and my kids and my family and my time and my energy. And if you can't agree to that, then we will part ways and everyone will be okay. But we're either going to grow together or we're going to grow apart.
Erin, you know what's interesting? And I'm not going to have to ask it this time. What my favorite question I always ask is, what's some advice you can give to your younger self? If we could give that same advice to our younger selves, think about individuals growing up in the adolescent, teenage, early 20s, all the peer pressure and everything on them, and you're so worried about what everybody thinks about you.
Ugh.
Wouldn't you want to take that mindset and insert it into your life when you were 13?
Oh my God. I mean, I would be in a very different place. I have to imagine that like the winding road would have gotten me somewhere near here with what I believe that my purpose is on this earth. However, I think I would have avoided a lot of pain and a lot of toxicity and a lot of destructive behavior and people that were abusive with me, to me in so many ways. And so, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, so many of our life lessons are the hard-earned, painful ones. We get a lot from them. But I just wish I didn't have to learn the lesson so many damn times.
Yeah, that's for sure, right? That resonates with me a little bit too.
Well, they'll keep coming around, Bob, right? Like,
oh yeah.
The thing about the lessons is they will keep coming back until you learn them. So you'll be like,
that's right.
What the fuck, dude? Why is this going on? It's like, oh, because I still haven't shifted my way of responding.
That's right. 100%. Yeah, I can't wait to get your book, Hype Women. And I want to talk about, you're one of the top 100 influencers on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yes.
And it was all because of one big quote that happened not too long ago.
It's been a journey.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm actually in a very different place with LinkedIn right now. So let me try to be as concise as possible.
All right. Fair enough.
This answer. Let me be as concise as possible. I have written prolifically on LinkedIn for 5 years, like prolifically. It has been my content publishing platform of choice. Absolutely. Without paid or some big brand, as just an individual person, I grew my following to 80,000 there of incredibly engaged people. And when I wrote this post, the Unabashed Hype Woman post on January 11th, 2023, it was honestly like a sort of warp speed amplifier of years of me planting fields and fields of seeds.
And this is something that kind of came up serendipitously. It's not something you planned.
Absolutely. Right? No, this was intuition.
Yeah. Right? So if we dissect into this a little bit, like this is kind of a foreshadowing about we're kind of skirting around what went on, but it took you how many years to be able to be in a position to intuitively drop a post called Hype Women, right? Hashtag Hype Women, right?
That's right.
And
that's right.
That was that Black Swan event that actually shot you into into a juggernaut, and like, that's pretty amazing. Can you speak to some of that? And then I'll have you kind of do that first and then kind of talk about what that post was about and what it ended up doing for you.
Yeah. Years of finding my voice, of really tiptoeing in a space that is the world's largest professional network. So it's like essentially all of our offices, if they were in one virtual location, this is the place where they are. More than a couple billion people are on here, in over 200 countries. So it's a massive place. And I was a good girl for a long time, following the rules, hoping to achieve what I was setting out to do in a game that turned out was rigged against me. And so I tiptoed for a long time, and I just really played the game and just did some really nice posts about very work things. And then actually about a year before this post, it was the summer of actually maybe it was a few years before this when I really look at it. Summer of 2020, it was the infant formula crisis. It was what was happening during the pandemic. And all of these people, both on LinkedIn, but also in my office, were saying, why don't women just breastfeed? It's free. Why is everyone freaking out about the formula? And I just lost my damn mind, because that's not how this works. And at this point, my kids were, 3 and 6. So I was out of that phase. But I wrote a post on LinkedIn that said, let me just explain something to you. Breastfeeding almost killed me psychologically, physically. You don't know a damn thing about it unless you've gone through it. And so I'm going to take you through it. And I wrote the post, and that post became one of LinkedIn's 100 most influential posts of the decade. That one went into places I never imagined because people couldn't believe that I was talking about this on LinkedIn. I had so many people coming after me being like, get your breasts off of LinkedIn, right? Like, you're talking about breastfeeding? This is disgusting. How dare you? And I said to them,
crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing about my breasts. They go with me everywhere. I don't get to decide to leave them at home. So they have infiltrated my career as well. And so that's kind of,
what a segue. What a segue, right?
I said, how do you like them apples?
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
I was like, here's the deal. You aren't going to tell me I can't talk about the truth in spaces because they're professional. So that was where I really broke through this kind of silencing barrier on LinkedIn for myself and said, I'm talking about all of it because it is related to my career. It is related to the way that women work in the world. Women are 51% of the population, half of the labor force, and 85% of consumer buying power. We are not a niche market. We are the market.
You are the market. In fact, in my line of business, we actually look at the people who we're targeting are mothers between the ages of 35 and 55. Mm-hmm. Because and we want female heads of households because they make all the buying decisions for healthcare.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So I get that 100% in spades. And I can tell you that my population is probably 80% female of patients that I treat. Men just don't go, this.
Well, remember,
they don't,
because they also, and the population that is male, I guarantee that there is some connection to a woman that got them there.
100%. It's always my wife wanted me to come, or
correct. My mom made the appointment.
Yeah, for sure.
My sister told me,
yep,
and so
100%.
They are the drivers of culture and consumerism, and so yeah.
Let me ask you a question though. As you were ideating that post, so to speak, right, talking about breastfeeding and all that, as you were thinking about what you were writing, did you have any sort of that was a vulnerable post for you, right? How did you deal with, or did you just kind of I'm done, I'm just going to be me and that's it? How did that end up transpiring in such a way to be that vulnerable on a post? If I'm asking the question right.
Yeah. I mean, I think you get to a point where the thing that breaks you is very rarely the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It's something that has happened to you many times before, but this time you're different. So I had heard that type of talk and dismissal of women returning to work after giving birth and having to navigate what that looked like. I had lived it multiple times over. I had just sort of kept going, kept my head down. There comes a point where you just hit a breaking point. You don't always know what it's going to be. And so it's like, Bob, I didn't say to myself, you know what? In 2 weeks, I'm writing that post. I can feel it coming. didn't stop myself from letting what was bubbling up inside of me come to the surface. And so that's why that came out when it did. And I believe that part of the reason it resonated so much is because it was authentic and raw and vulnerable.
Yep.
And my point of writing it was to make women feel less alone and to help people that didn't understand what was going on to see the truth. Those were my goals, right? I wasn't people that set out like, I'm going to try to write a viral post. I'm going to pay attention to what's happening in culture. I'm going to watch like where the media is going and I'm going to insert myself and try to write something. That is a strategy and people use it. And I get it. This was based purely on raw emotion. And so that's what happened.
What's interesting is there's many people in life that do not have a voice and they don't speak out and they'll never let you know what they're thinking. When you're writing something like that, you're validating how they feel. You're on top of all that, you're getting people to think, because a lot of the things that we think growing up that everybody says is, as we talked about earlier, is the way it is. It's not. So you accomplish many different tasks by just putting that post out, a very powerful post. And whenever you can reach people to validate that usually aren't validated, that's a major, major accomplishment.
Validation is, I think, one of the most primal needs of humans. We just want to be seen.
Of course.
And I think a lot of people are invalidated over the course of their lives. Women especially are invalidated with our experiences. That didn't happen to you. That's not what he meant. You're too sensitive. Why are you always trying to start a fight about stuff? Just let it go, right? You're told over and over again that your intuition and your experience didn't happen. And so you stop trusting yourself. So what I recognize when I am writing on any topic, I recognize the unbelievable privilege I have as a straight, white, cisgendered woman. This is an archetype that we have decided gets a pass for a lot of things. And I don't have that privilege because I deserve it or I've earned it. I have it because that was the body that I was born into. So I feel unbelievable responsibility to use that vessel to speak about the things that need to be talked about, because I'm in places that other people can't be.
I think it's amazing that you use a platform for that. I want to talk a little bit about that big time post that you played and what went behind that.
It's a good segue, Bob.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, speaking of platforms, I was meeting my friend for dinner and I was early, which doesn't happen very often. So I was like, might as well scroll through Instagram and see what's happening over there. And I saw over and over again this image of Jamie Lee Curtis, like screaming with her arms outstretched. And next to her is Michelle Yeoh, overwhelmed with her head in her hands at what's happening. And so if you have no context and you look at that photo, you're like, something really good happened to Jamie. That's what you're thinking. What we discover upon further investigation is that this is the moment that Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress for her lead role in Everything Everywhere All at Once at the Golden Globes. And in that split-second moment, Jamie was celebrating Michelle's win as if it were her own. And we so rarely see women do this for each other. We rarely see it. The reason why is because we are conditioned to view one another as threats and competition, and to see a light shining on another woman as casting a shadow on us. There's this comparative exercise that's constantly happening and a scarcity mindset that is not our fault. But it is our responsibility and our opportunity to make a different choice. So I
love that you just said that, actually. That's actually something I train my kids and my team members about. It's not your fault that something went wrong, but it has to be your responsibility to fix it. So that you and I speak that same language in a lot of ways. It's amazing.
Really important language because it removes shame and blame. And when someone feels shame and blame, they feel isolated, they feel defensive, they go in. So when you say to them, no, this ain't on you, but I do need you to help us get out of it, that completely shifts their role. And so I really wanted to remove the shame from women because we do think this about women often, and we feel bad about it. Those of us that are actually hype women. Mean Girls, that's this is their brand of like modus operandi. This is kind of how they live their life, is they go around talking shit about other women and telling other women that people are talking shit about them. So I just wanted to call out this moment. So I literally opened my phone. I did not overthink it, Bob. Like, I just started writing, ladies, this is our vibe for 2023. Unabashed hype women. We are going to decondition from what we've been taught, that women are a competition. We're going to unlearn this shit. It is a trap meant to keep us keeping each other down. And I was like, you have to find your Jamie. You have to be her Jamie. Like, this is our job. And I closed my phone and I went to dinner, and I didn't think anything else of it. I post on LinkedIn all the damn time. Like, things pick up and things don't. And I just was like, hey, that's how I feel about this. So I wake up the next morning and my phone is flooded with texts from my friends who are like, holy fuck, have you looked at Instagram? So Jamie Lee Curtis, her friend saw my LinkedIn post and sent it to her. And then she posted it to her, at the time, 5.6 million Instagram followers. She has grown another million in the years since. And she's like, hey, this post moved me. This really describes who I am. It's who I've always been. Like, long live Michelle. And so then we started volleying hype back and forth to one another without like a written contract or knowing like what the end game was. Jamie DMs me and she's like, thank you for this. I'm here. Like, how can I help? And I was like, I want you to come on my podcast. And I didn't have a podcast. Didn't have one. I was like, right? I was like, oh shit. I was like, better create a podcast. I'm like, I want you to come to a fairway dinner. And she's like, done. So we start texting each other. She sends 12 of her, at the time, children's books that she has authored to my boy. She hand inscribes every single one of them to them. We are hyping each other online and in real life back and forth over and over again. A year later, she is on her book tour for her 13th children's book. She's on the Today Show. She's on The View, the Kelly Clarkson Show. And every single one of those daytime shows brought up my post from the year before and said, talk to us about this. And she was like, that's Erin Gallagher. That's the hype women movement. And she said my name in rooms where I'm not. Like, that's the energy. That's the vibe. So I took that and I said, this is what I've been building for decades. I've been building this, and now I have given it a name. And so I turned it into something much more tangible. And obviously now, it's become a book.
You mentioned Mean Girls, and I've read a lot of stuff on how you describe Mean Girls. Do you think Mean Girls, it's difficult, or will they ever be able to be hype women?
That's the $1 million question, Dennis. From what I have seen, Mean Girls, without intervention or self-actualization, they grow up not to hype women, but to hate women. And then they raise the next generation of Mean Girls themselves. And I'm seeing it right now on the playground at my kids' elementary school, of Mean Girl moms with Mean Girl daughters. It's happening, right? And it's like I was inside of those places on the receiving end many times of both. So I am not here to hype all women. And that's confusing for some people to hear. They're like, well, why would you not? Aren't you here to hype? No, I'm not here to hype all women. There are women who do not deserve my hype. There are women who do not deserve a lot of people's hype. They need to figure their shit out. I am here to help women break free from those mean girls. That is why I am existing. It's why I wrote this book. It's not to teach the mean girls how to be different. They have to come to that on their own. They have to decide that's even something that they want to explore. But I am here to help women recognize when mean girls are in their life and they are sucking their life force out of them. Identify it and figure out a way out. And once you do that, you start to remember who you are. And until then, they are really actually controlling.
Yeah, and you actually start to regain some of your life or identify your life that you may not have had in the first place.
Absolutely.
Going back to the WNBA for a second.
Yes, please.
Chicago. Yep, you mentioned Chicago Sky, Indiana Fever. There's been a lot about the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Ms. Reese.
Yes.
How would you break down how hype women, how it relates to that? And because there's also competition involved as well.
For sure.
Where that's the other thing. How do you balance all of that out? Where is that? They're obviously not hyping each other up, but they're also competitive. Can you give your perspective on that?
Yes. The media loves to create conflict.
Of course.
Right. They love that. It's clickbait, but they also love to do it between women. And what ends up happening so often in these cases, the two women who were never fighting end up fighting because of the narratives that are swirling around them. And they end up broken when nothing was happening between them that was nefarious to begin with. They are competitors. They have a physical sport that they play, right? This is different than a corporate America where you have like two women who are going for a job. Like they're not like, there isn't like at the end of the hour, a winner or a loser. It's a much more complicated, nuanced situation. These women are truly competing as a part of their job. And the best of women understand that exists when they are on the court and then it is done when they're off. They really do. And you hear so many of the women in the WA say, yeah, I hate her when I'm out there. And then I text her afterwards and I'm like, what's up, girl? Right? Like they can understand the difference between those two things. Competition can be healthy. Competition is important in life. But the competition that happens outside of a sport that is about seeing another woman fail to make you feel better, that's the thing that is destroying women and women's relationships with one another and their relationships with themselves. So I believe that there is nothing that is like as deep-seated as the media has made it out to be between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. You have two of the best athletes from the same WNBA class, right? Who are doing incredible things at their college. They're going to be positioned as two women who are competing. But what I hated was that we weren't like, look how good they are.
Yeah, right.
Look at how they make each other better. Look at how watching them play against each other is so fucking entertaining. We weren't like that. We were like, she hates her.
You know what's funny is we putting a date on ourselves. I grew up in the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and they were both so much better because they were always looking over their shoulder, pushing each other.
Yep.
Today they are best friends.
Yep.
Magic wanted to be friends with him during the day, but he said Bird was like, if I was friends with him, I would have taken my foot off the gas. So it's really interesting. Taking that to another step, we grew up without social media. And when you pass a story around, it's kind of like the telephone game.
That's right.
And it changes as it goes around. How much do you think social media has spread the growth of this anti-hype woman?
Oh, God. It's a killer. It's a true killer. There's the speed. The speed with which misinformation, disinformation can be spread is shocking. It's shocking. The requirement to do further investigation about whether something is truthful doesn't exist. You can very easily see something and just repost it and not actually look at where that came from and discover that you actually are perpetuating a lie. And so I think even before social media, when we were getting into that 24-hour news cycle, we were creating a situation that was going to become untenable because it meant we needed to have constant content. Constant content. When you think about this, when you have to create content and you don't have anything left, you start making shit up. And so this is where so many of these false narratives come from, these lies and these fabrications around competition between people that didn't even know that they were up against one another. I love that you talk about Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And I grew up I was born in Long Beach. And so I grew up with the Lakers, Vlade Divac, right? And like all those folks. And so like, again, men have an abundance mindset because they see themselves everywhere. They know that there will always be a place for them. So you have these incredible male athletes who are like, guess what? When we're done, we got fucking endorsements. Like we good, right? You have women who only recently are getting endorsements. Before that, it was like, no. If you aren't the best in your sport, you aren't going to make money ever. And so we created these situations and these infrastructures where the infighting was a survival tactic. So when we start paying women what they deserve, especially in the WNBA, they are going to have way more power and control over their lives. And they're not going to be at the beck and call of the latest trash media outlets narrative that they're pulling, they're going to be above it. They're not even going to have time to engage in it. So there's a lot of like reasons why these things have gotten to the point that they have, and we have to dismantle those one brick at a time.
Yeah, well, that's you're doing a fantastic job doing that with the Hype Women movement, and now your book coming out. Dennis, I mean, what do you think? I think this is one of the best interviews we've had.
Unbelievable. You know? Unbelievable. You, Erin, you're speaking a lot about what people need to hear. You're hyping humanity up, in particular women. Everybody needs to listen to this. And like I said, as I've been an educator for years, these messages would help many children, adolescents, teenagers through school and through the difficult times. So I'm so glad that we connected, and we cannot wait for your book to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us how can you pre-order? Are we at pre-order, or like tell us how we can get it? Yeah. Tell us how to do that.
We're at pre-order.
Yeah.
Anywhere that you prefer to buy your books, you can pre-order the book right now, whether that's Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, really any place. I have all of them, or at least 9 of those directly linked on hypewomen.com. So if you go there, you can do that. The book is out of Her Cocoon, October 14th.
Nice. Right. It's exciting, isn't it?
It's very exciting. It's a new role for me, this author role. I'm clumsily trying to figure it out and sort through it.
But you're doing it. Any in-stores planned yet?
Yes, we're doing, I think 5 to 7 cities. Will be in Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, DC. Did I say New York? Yes, and Chicago.
Yep.
So
nice.
we will definitely be in those places, and then more to come after that. But those are the markets where I have.
Those are the big markets.
Yeah, I have so many unbelievably incredible women and people who have been huge supporters of me along this journey.
Yeah, and how can people on social channels, can you rattle those off for the guests? I'll put them in the liner notes, online when we put them up, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, why don't you reiterate those for people?
For sure. So on Instagram, I'm Erin.Gallagher, and it's GALLAG.HER, right? Long game with my marriage. I was like, I want to find someone with the last name that has her in it.
There you go.
Right. So that's Instagram. And then, like I was saying before, I used to use LinkedIn as my primary content publishing platform. I have felt in the past few years that my content has been suppressed and silenced, especially as a woman speaking truth to power and talking about the difficult things in the world. So I don't use that as my primary content publishing platform anymore. I've moved over to Substack. And so you can find me, Erin, number 4, Equity, erinforequity.substack.com. And that's really where I am, spending my time and energy now, talking about the things that I think are important and that matter. And I would love to connect with you there.
Oh, and please keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I am a big fan of all of the things we talked about today, and we could go down the rabbit hole for sure, Dennis, right? Seriously.
Absolutely. We can't wait for it to come out. And you're doing great things. Keep doing it and making change.
Thank you, guys. And I think I'm so grateful for the two of you. Hype women is a noun and a verb. So there are people who can be hype women, right? Women who hype other women, but anyone can hype women. And that is what you have done by bringing me here. It's what you continue to do in your work day in and day out with the conversations that you have, the spaces that you create. We need each other, and I'm so grateful for you. And we need men who are doing this kind of work for the next generation.
100%. Thank you.
And Dennis, you want to close us out?
It's go time.
It's go time.